The conversations that I get to have around business, which are 20 years deep of being an entrepreneur, are in and around how you get funded, what that looks like. And they always seem to be investor focused. But your financial institution partnership is so critically important to how you get the work done.
A lot of our work is centered around finding ways to help build resilience in communities.
So today we're talking about real community wealth.
By helping put the right people together, you're more likely to be able to have that longer-term sustainable impact on community.
How it's built, who it serves, and why it matters.
There's no place that you could have worked the 20 years or so that I put in with the credit union that you could kind of go back and tangibly say, look at all the things I did.
My name is Mark Brand. You are listening to Better. I'm a social impact entrepreneur, so I build businesses that are in service to the greater community. So Better was formed to be a tool for everyday advocacy. I think anytime we take people's attention, we have to give something. And there's no better guest for that conversation than my brother and president of East Coast Credit Union and CEO, Ken Shea.
How you doing, Mark?
You and I have had this conversation so many times over the last couple of years, and I get really excited about it. And I haven't been on a soapbox tall enough to do this conversation. Yeah. And so thank you for agreeing to come and join us.
No, I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think, setting the tone here, credit unions aren't just a friendlier version of banks. They're fundamentally different. So when we talk about the only thing that they have in common is you put your money in them.
Yeah.
And that's really it. They're member owned. So
correct.
I own part of ECCU. I own part of Van City.
Every one of our 50,000 members has a piece.
That's exactly right. That means their profits go back to people, not to pockets. We say that all day long. And the numbers prove that stuff. So for folks listening at home, to give us a tone setter here, according to the Canadian Credit Union Association, credit unions return nearly $400 million a year in Canada alone. And that goes back to their members, to communities through profit sharing, through lower fees, and through community investments like ours. We'll get to that in a bit. They consistently outperform banks in customer satisfaction year after year. You guys are always parading on stage.
Those surveys always put us at the top. It's great.
And I mean, in a time where you can't even get somebody on the phone if you're banking with the bank, or you can't find a person, customer service has sort of disappeared, and you guys are tripling your investment in employing more people and what it looks like, which is really beautiful. And then small business owners like ourselves. Mm-hmm. Well, I could never get funded by banks, and we'll get into that. But credit unions who take giant risks on community investments, and I say giant risks, well-educated risks, but risks on people that banks wouldn't normally. Mm-hmm. And I think the real kicker is credit unions operate with values, community, transparency, access, while banks are consolidating and closing branches in rural areas. Credit unions are showing up, staying, and reinvesting. One of my North Stars, Dr. Reverend Moses Cody, who was one of the originators of this sort of form of cooperative or community investment. And we'll start with a quote of his. And he said, "I'm not a leftist or a rightist. I'm where the righteous ought to be," which I believe meant that he was a centrist.
Yeah. And also, I think he was trying to make sure that people had the opportunity. He was all about enabling people to have opportunity to grow, to do more with what they had. And he had other famous quotes around, you're way stronger together than you are as individuals, and things like that are part of the ethos of credit unions that have really kind of helped us as we've built out the system over the years to make sure we're on the right North Star.
Which really resonates true. So our origin story, Ken and my origin story, is I was here in Nova Scotia 3 years ago doing a keynote for the Atlantic credit unions, all of them together. Yeah. And he was featured heavily in that. And as we were speaking about like how community works and how we built all of our things. And afterwards, in my Q&A, the first question was, when are you coming here? Mm-hmm. So I grew up in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, right across the bridge, the better side of the bridge. I can't be tested on that right now because I have the microphone. But I grew up over there, and I was always going to come back to Nova Scotia. And so when somebody said, when are you coming back? I said, well, when are you going to help me? And you guys were the first to put your hands up and call a meeting together. And what we decided to get together on was your ESG, or your environmental impact. Yeah. And so what we've done versus where we started is very different. But I wanted to start us here because you guys leaning in immediately is so different than what we're used to as a community organization. How do you work with all the different community organizations here in the Maritimes? How do you choose what gets you excited?
So what we do, basically, we're really all about community economic development and impact of our various investments. So we really try to make sure that whatever we do is, double, triple, multiple times what we're investing. Sure. And we do it through a couple of ways. One is we pick really good projects. And also we try to be involved from a person perspective as well.
Right.
So we don't normally just give a bag of money and say, here you go do your thing. We try to get involved so that we're kind of more, it's things that we can commit to both in resources and in financial capacity.
Sure.
And so that usually helps, you get your team behind it. It's a little easier to get a little bit of traction with some of these things. As a credit union, we've committed over the last 20 years or so since I've been around to do 10% of our net profit that we kind of set that aside every year and put it back into community impact projects.
That's right.
We do a number of things that aren't measured around community economic development. So a lot of our work is centered around finding ways to help build resilience in community that might not be about us giving money. It might be about us helping an organization through lending.
Sure.
Helping organizations come together to provide funding. Like we did a big project a few years ago when the Michelin had some closures at a plant just outside of New Glasgow.
Okay.
So we partnered with the Michelin Foundation. We partnered with the local CBDCs. We put up some of our money. They put up some of their money. We created a fund that allowed us to invest in entrepreneurs in the community.
Okay.
Created 700 or 800 jobs, helped seed capital, a few hundred different businesses.
Wow.
That went on to continue to help the community as they navigated through that economic downturn, so to speak. And so it's projects like that and things like that really get you charged up about going to work every day.
You just delivered that super casually. Like you were like, oh yeah, we did this kind of small thing where we stood up an entire community. Like we've had a dozen hangouts and I've never heard that story. So that I think that speaks to the integrity of like what you all do.
Yeah.
And the humility at which you move with, which is why we're here today, because we're going to bust that humility wide open.
Okay.
It's enough.
Yeah.
Like it's enough of us being polite about credit unions and credit unions being polite of why they're better than banks. And I'm going to go back into my personal history because when we did Save on Meats and when we resurrected that, on paper, I had no assets. I'm a multi-entrepreneur. We've got 8 businesses running. I am leveraged, out my ears.
To the hilt, so to speak.
Yeah. And to give that context, like my credit card debt, like I didn't have anything else. So that's as leveraged as I could be. But putting this project together, it was $750,000 that we needed to get funded. To me, that felt like $1 billion at that time. I got to be clear. And my partner, Brian Smith, who co-founded Persephone Brewing with me, was in the finance department of building opportunities for business. He put together this business plan and he's like, I'm going to pitch this to the credit unions. And I laughed. I was like, okay, cool. Like I understand. I went to the bank for a $25,000 line of credit for our restaurant that was doing $2 million and they laughed me at the doors. Yeah. They laughed me at the doors. You're going to ask the credit union for $750,000? I was like, well, I'll have no danger of doing this project. At least I don't have to,
I don't have to get my new suit or anything. That's not going to happen.
Not only did Van City get the $750,000 together, but then they leveraged that investment and put us with 3 other credit unions that gave us smaller amounts and put all the funding together. So they called my bluff, essentially. They were like, oh, you want to create all these jobs in the community?
And let's do it.
Let's go ahead and do it. So blew my mind. Yeah. And I've told that story thousands of times, but it still is disconnected from, oh, well, my dad banked at X, and so therefore I do that. I'm like, do you understand that projects like mine are only possible because you bank with a credit union?
Right on.
So if you like what we do, please do it. And there's still this sort of like trope or an edge or a narrative that needs to be busted. And I want to do that today. So what do you think, because you've been in finance forever, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I started my career with one of the big 5.
That's right.
I spent 15 years there and I called it collecting license plates. I worked in a number of different communities. We did a lot of great work in that organization and helped a lot of people.
Sure.
I think it was when I first had my kids and my wife and I were tired of moving so much that I kind of started to look at, what was really important to me as a person. So that was like my family, that kind of stuff. And so I was like, well, if I don't want to move all the time, I need to figure out a slightly different career. I really had a lot of skills, I thought, in the banking business. So I understood a lot about that part. Always felt in a bigger organization, I was kind of like the cog on the wheel.
Sure.
Instead of the wheel.
Yeah.
And wanted to do something where I could have more impact. So an opportunity came up at the credit union, and I said, this sounds kind of interesting. Running a similar size team to what I was used to running in the bank, having a little more control over how the opportunities would come in and how you maybe kind of help the team find the right things to do. But less moving and chance of that unless you really wanted to. You could certainly move to other locations and grow in the credit union space, but gave you a little more, put that a little more in your hands, a little more control over maybe your destiny.
Sure.
And so, took a chance on it in a way because it was kind of like a lateral thing. It was very similar to what I was doing at the bank, but it's worked out to be a fantastic career.
Every time that I meet an organization, it feels like you are all already interwoven into them. So that North Grove from Dartmouth, that got put together. We're going to meet this week. Phenomenal organization, but as you are all saying, like, you don't fund us directly yet. We're going to build a whole bunch more stuff, so you're going to have to do that. But you don't fund us directly in that. You fund some programming with us, which is really important. Yeah. And we've been doing this really great recovery program together, where we're taking waste, quote unquote, waste food in partnership with Feed Nova Scotia, et cetera, and then reconstituting that and getting it into our neighbors. Yeah. But when I said to these folks at ECCU, I was like, hey, I want to take over this cafe and I want to stand it up and I wanted to do recovery food, but I also want to do hot meals and our token project, et cetera. There wasn't even an eyelid blink. It was like, yes, we would love to do that with you as well. So what I'm sharing here is there's layers to this cake, right? And the bottom layer, I think, is the one that's most important, which is we were always looking at the way that these community organizations are interwoven and as a trusted partner to all of them, making those introductions. Name one time that a bank has done that. Name one time that one of the big five is like, hold on a second. You know who you need to meet in New Glasgow is
such and such.
Literally never. I can't get that level of service. And I think what's missing so much from this is like, I need guidance. Yeah. As somebody who wants to invest some money or somebody who wants to lend some money or somebody who wants to borrow some money. Yeah. I don't know what any of that is, and I shouldn't have to go to YouTube or to Reddit for it.
No, for sure.
I should be able to call or walk into a branch.
You should have a trusted advisor that can help you with that, and that's what we try to be. And the reason we want to make those connections is we believe that you can have more impact, right? And we've seen it in multiple ways over time by helping put the right people together. You're more likely to be able to have that longer term sustainable impact on community, and quite frankly, we couldn't do the work we do if we didn't have those partnerships either, because it helps us to be more relevant in the communities that we serve. So
I remember texting with you and our dear friend Sally, who's the vice president over there. And I was like, hey, I've got this organization that has this many franchises that are looking to refinance a bank. And you were like, they're too big for us right now, right? It's like, this is not what we're interested in. And I was like, imagine as a financial institution turning business away because you're not right-sized to provide the amount of service.
Yeah, because we wouldn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Like, that wouldn't make sense for us because it would go against kind of our principles. So we would rather have that, that might not be the right snack bracket for us and make it easier for those people to get what they need. Because we know we can't be everything to everybody, but we do believe we can be a lot of great things to a lot of people.
And again, I want to remind anybody who's listening right now, we are speaking to a financial institution. And I know this contradicts everything you've ever heard or known, but this is truly the relationship that you have dealing with a credit union in specific and thinking about how those things impact the community. So you gave us this beautiful example of the Michelin plant closing down, standing it back up. But what are some of the things that you're most excited about right now, like in present and then in future,
present stuff, obviously the relationship we have with you has been fantastic, and there's a lot of great things we're doing together, and we hope to continue to build on that over time. We've done a lot of work over the last several years with assisted living and community living organizations. We've done major gifts with them to help stand up premises and build their capacity. So those have been very important things. We do a lot of work with L'Arche, Cape Breton, and we just did their chowder event. I think it raised the most money it has in the 10 or 15 years it's been in existence, which was fantastic. It's a great organization, and we've been very happy to partner with them over the years. But we try to find things, too, that our employees are interested in, because I think, one of the things that allows you to bring more passion to work is having that connection to the things that you're impacting. and whether that be the business we're in. So we have people that are really charged in our business area to find the right opportunities for the credit union. They go out and they search hard and they make sure that we're able to serve those members well with the products and services they need. And they get very excited about that part of the opportunity. We have other people that, are very excited about the day-to-day work that they do, but then also very excited about some of the things that we're able to impact in these other ways. Future-wise, one of the things that's been happening to us over the last 20 years, we've grown quite substantially in assets under administration and obviously in our profitability. So it's really positively impacted, I think, the way we can get involved.
Sure.
So if you would have came to me 10 years ago, say, we might not have been in a position to help you in the way we were able to this time, because we would not have had the pockets to be able to say, okay, we can make that commitment for 5 years comfortably and try to make this thing work.
Sure.
We might have had to say, well, we'll do it for a year and see how it goes, or we'll do this, but we can't do that.
Right.
So it's really, I think that's the part that I find exciting. It's really allowed us as an organization and a team to be able to get involved in some things that we might not have ever dreamed possible in the past.
Which is super cool.
Yeah.
And you think about the governance that's involved in all of that in the stakeholder versus shareholder conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so if any of the big five are making a decision, that decision impacts them in a graph.
In a different way.
Yeah, right? Because there's a whole bunch of people expecting a year after year profitability return, whereas on the other side of this, conversely, I'm expecting you to invest more in Hope Blooms, or I'm expecting you to invest more in standing up, disappearing industry, or opening new branches in remote locations to be in service to people. And that's just a normalized expectation where the rest are disappearing and access is becoming harder and there's less chance to get a human being.
Yeah.
And so in our work specifically together, the 5 years that we're attached to be doing this work together, what's been so fun is the adjacent organizations that we're able to introduce to you are more exciting. Like when we bring a nonprofit to you guys, you get way more excited than if I brought a for-profit, as the example was before. And so in your day-to-day work, we also have the volunteers who come visit us every Friday and have done so for a year and
almost
a half.
A year and a bit.
Yeah. Like every single Friday, we have 2 people from the East Coast Credit Union come and cook with us and spend time with us and lean in. They're like our family extended at this point. This is conversation feels like we're skewing pretty hard maritime. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, this feels like to Nova Scotians who are listening, they're like, oh yeah,
we get
obviously this is who we are. Right. Yeah. And there's a sort of an unseen and unknown hospitality that seems like it's almost a fairy tale to the rest of the country. Yeah. But you and I got to cook for you all in Marina Del Rey in California a few months ago. And that was all the CEOs of the credit unions through our partners with Cumis. And having everybody together, the conversation, I would not imagine 35 CEOs in a competitive space being so gregarious with each other and excited to potentially collaborate. Yeah. How is that even possible in financial institution? Like how do you do that?
Yeah, well, we all have different markets that we serve, so it's not like we're really competing necessarily for the same markets, but at the same time, we all are smaller in the grander scheme of things of financial services. So I think that it makes it a little bit easier for us to kind of have that relationship where you're not feeling like you're a direct competitor. You're more of a colleague and a competitor. We call it co-opetition instead of cooperation. So we try to work together when we can. Obviously, you have to be careful we're not setting prices and all that stuff together because that's collusion or whatever monopolistic stuff. But really, what you're trying to do is to make sure that we have the tools to serve members in the long term. And in the back, we have to do things together because as an individual organization, we don't have the size and the capacity to have everything available if we don't work together. Right. So it's been a journey of trying to get all those pieces to work so that the members can be served and have all the things available that maybe they have at the Royal Bank or some other large financial institution. But having those things available to them in a way that it feels like it's all in the one house, but it might be through partners and things. And, a lot of the larger commercial things we do syndication where we bring, like you did with Van City, bring credit unions together to help facilitate a deal, because maybe one of us isn't large enough to do that, but maybe together we are.
Sure.
Sometimes it's more complicated if you're in different kinds of business, because obviously, like, lines of credit are harder to kind of manage on a daily basis, right? Where if it's a direct lending for a period of time, it's a little bit easier to do that kind of syndication process. But a lot of it's around, how do we make sure that we have the tools to serve members? So whether it's, we've got a partnership with a number of credit unions in Atlantic Canada called CUFM. So that allows us to do wealth management insurance, but act as if we're a larger organization. So instead of being just us, it's the 13 or 14 partners across Atlantic Canada. And now we have a team that's managed professionally by their own CEO that can help get all those things available to all of our members in any of those credit unions that are connected to that group. And so we're a significant shareholder of that because we were helped to start it.
Sure.
But the idea was to remove it from the side of each of our desks so that we could provide that better service and a higher level of expertise to people without having to build it all in-house. So we're always happy to find ways to do more with what we have. And whether that's in the community space or whether that's in the business space, we try to do that in all ways we can.
Yeah, I mean, the trusted network that you're talking about being built is really what people who want a one-stop shop are looking for, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go to you and I'm building a business here. I immediately asked through the credit union group that we got together with, I was like, who am I going to bank with?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we don't want to get in trouble, but we would recommend these guys. Like immediately, I was like, okay, who am I going to insure with? Who's going to be my accountant? Who's going to be our lawyers?
Yeah.
And, the list is all right there of the most trusted and the best.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do that myself. Imagine having that as a one-stop shop. It makes a ton of sense. And it also harkens back to the idea of a cooperative or a community.
Mm-hmm.
What are the top 5 things that people get wrong about credit unions versus banks?
Yeah. The top 5 things, I think one of the big things is that we really, because you're an owner, I think it's a different relationship.
Okay.
Because we're committed to serving you. So we're not, we are a for-profit business. We have to make money.
Sure.
We have regulators. They're not happy when we don't make money.
Okay.
So we have to make a certain level to sustain ourselves and make sure that we're able to provide service in the future. But it's not all about the bottom line. It's a kind of a triple level bottom line. So that's one of the other differences is it's not just the financial. It's about how we impact the broader community, how we treat our employees. We've been recognized as a top employer. We won a culture award last year. We've won awards for diversity, equity, inclusion. So we try to make sure we're doing the things that make us a great place to work.
Sure.
That, I think, spins off into the impact on the people that come and use our services because they feel like they're getting a better approach, and it shows up in our customer service scores. As an organization, we have East Coast itself we do NPS, which is Net Promoter Score. So we try to get that customer service / ability to recommend, and we score very highly in comparison to other financial institutions. We're about 150 to 200% what the average is of the industry.
Okay.
And so the reason I think that is because people feel that connection to the people that they go and do their business with.
Certainly.
So there's what are we on 4 maybe now? That's maybe the 4th one is that connection to the people that you bank with every day, and that they're there kind of as your advocate to help you find the right thing. And maybe the final one is just things like B Corp, our commitment to giving back, and our commitment to giving back not only in dollars and cents, but also in volunteer hours and activity. I think that's probably another key differentiator. I think anybody can write a check.
Certainly.
And that's good. I think we need all that to happen too. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's a great thing, but it's harder sometimes for organizations to be able to write the check and give the effort, and we try to do both if we can, and that I think makes a big difference.
Definitely. I'm going to pull out one thing you said there because I think it's, they all make me smirk, but it's, we're going to advocate on your behalf.
Hmm.
Having business banked for a long time prior, I don't think I saw the same teller more than twice ever in my entire career. And if I needed something, I was diverted to a call center.
Yeah.
And being diverted to a call center as somebody who does community-based work is one of the most infuriating things I can imagine, right?
Yeah.
Like you're a small business owner or an individual.
Yeah.
I can't hit zero enough times, like almost pushed through the screen of my iPhone multiple times hitting zero. So what does it look like in practice? And I can share that there's a branch just over here, and I was getting some stuff sorted out. I needed checks for my landlord for our first build out here. And I walked in there like, oh my God, how you doing? Because they had been at one of the events together. We start talking about their kids, about them trying to do a culinary journey. I felt like I was somewhere, like it felt like I was at a pub or a restaurant that I would prior have owned.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the sort of feeling or relationship that I want to have, because I don't feel like I'm then ever asking a stupid question.
No, because there are no stupid questions, right?
100%.
We all have things we know and we have things we don't know. And the better we can be prepared, I think the better off we'll all be.
Agreed.
You know?
And I think there's a technological piece that I want to cover here. Our time is, of course, as per always with you and I, yarning disappears immediately.
Yeah.
But I think there's another trope that is technological and access, which is, well, the credit unions, I can't access my money if I travel abroad, or technologically they're behind. Yeah. You want to speak to those two things?
Yeah, for sure. So with the credit union, because of those partnerships I spoke about earlier, we have a connection across the country. You can go to any ATM. We have actually the largest network. We're bigger than any of the others put together because with all of us together, we're larger. So it gives access to people in many communities without a cost. So we call it ding free.
Okay.
So they can use their credit union account across the country. Internationally, because we also are, the credit union system is a worldwide thing. We do have connections in other parts of the world. So when you want to use your card for debit, credit, whatever, you can do that in other parts of the world as well. So the connections are there. From an electronic perspective, and it's funny, you mentioned not having to hit the zero and get to the call center. Yeah. We do have a virtual advice center. And what's unique about it in comparison to the other financial institutions is the people are local. So they're working in our branches. That some of them are working from home. Some of them are in one of our locations, but they're actually in the community.
That's right.
And what they're there for is to help people when they need that service, but they can't come to the branch, or they would prefer to do it at a time maybe that isn't conducive to getting into a location.
Sure.
And so we have invested fairly heavily the last few years in trying to build that team, because we know that people are busy. Mm-hmm. People need to be able to get to us the way they want to get to us. So we have to be able to offer that, right, as well as the in the branch when you can make it kind of thing. But the focus is around local. It's the same people. It's about convenience more than it's about us trying to shift everybody over to that channel, so to speak, to make it more profitable or easier for us to do the work. Yeah. It's around how do we enable people to get that service if that's the way they want to do business with us.
Which is, again, I'm going to pull this out, versus downsizing offerings and automating. You're doing quite the opposite, which is like extended hours here, plus digitally after hours, a real person that you can reach and be in touch with, which is special, because I think what I've witnessed and experienced with you all and doing some design work with you too is seeing the user, me or anybody else, Madison, whoever it may be, is always the center of the design. And I've tried to fault you all on it for multiple years, right? Because I'm like, it can't be this good. Yeah. And so I want to be really clear with everybody listening or watching this right now. This is not in any way paid. Like, these folks are a sponsor of the show, but it wasn't an insistence. This is, Ken is here on my request to be on the show this season, because I believe so wholeheartedly that this system, this underlying system where people are banking versus credit unions, think about the impact that could be done in community if you move your money over. So I want you to think about your $500 that's sitting in one of the big fives right now, if that money was sitting in a credit union. So let's just do this exercise, Ken. So I've got $250,000 in the bank. Yeah. I wish I had $250,000. I got $250,000 in the bank. It's just sitting there in a credit union. Yeah. What is the difference of it sitting in a credit union versus sitting in a bank?
So if it's sitting in a bank, they're going to try, just like we are, to maximize the return on that. So they're going to try to find some way to get it into community through a loan or an investment of some sort. Okay. They're going to be trying to pay you a return that's competitive with others like we do. Okay. But the difference might be that $250, if it's in the credit union, might go to an organization that might not have been able to get the money at the bank, but because they got it with us, they can employ 3 more people or 4 more people. The rate of return to us might be a little lower, so it means that they have more money in their jeans at the end of the year. As part of that, whatever profit we made goes directly, 10% of it goes directly back into the community. All the people that are employed, or many of them, or most of them, are part of the local community. So you're banking with a purpose, is what I call it, rather than just banking. And by banking with a purpose, you're able to help your community be more sustainable. You're hopefully able to encourage more business in your local community. And, there's never been a time when people have been more interested or more concerned about how the dollars that they use impact the broader community.
That's right.
And many of the other financial institutions, larger ones, are cross-border, so they've got business in all different environs. With your credit union, it's local. So you're going to have that. Now, your definition of local, like we're local, but we're local to Nova Scotia. So we cover a fair bit of the province, but we're still very local even in our way we do things within the branches the communities we serve. So we try to make sure we respect that local feel as well as being local to Nova Scotia. So
definitely. And so wherever you happen to be listening to this, I use the Amalgamated Bank in the U.S. To do our charitable work, et cetera. They're a credit union, entirely Black owned, and exceptional organization. Yeah. You can find a credit union no matter where you are.
Yes.
And so just like lean into that. I interviewed, I think, 6 or 7 different credit unions when we were deciding who to bank with. And I found the one that was most excited about our work in community. We're working in Brownsville and in Harlem and in the Bronx. And so they were really motivated by our work on Black food systems and food security and sovereignty. So we got along really well.
Yes. Which
Which is so crazy. I was auditioning quote unquote bankers. And we're not a big organization. It's not like we were moving tons of money. They didn't care if it was $50 or $500,000. Like it wasn't relevant to them. What was relevant to them is, are we going to be able to be a good partner for you to access what you need to access? And they were really earnest with me too. They're like, we're upgrading our online system right now.
So this might not be as good as you'd like it to be, but it's going to work.
But we're getting there. And here's our 3-year plan. And it's like, this is beautiful. Like it's so special. And when I went to close out with one of the big 5, who we also had a relationship with, who had donated to us, I was like, hey, we're going to move our account. And they were like, oh, thank God. And I was like, what? And they were like, thank you. Like not for nothing, but you're really high touch.
Yeah.
You're a really high touch customer, and the return versus that wasn't great for us. Also, we're being purchased. Yeah. So it was HSBC, and they got actually purchased out.
Right on.
And so they got bought out by Citizens all throughout New York.
Right.
Because HSBC didn't want to deal with bottom line clients anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's this other thing of like, ooh, am I going against the grain of this larger financial institution? They will not miss your money. Is what it comes down to, is like, you could actually be impacting your community directly. And that 10% is a real number. You're also enabling businesses like mine or other small independent businesses to access financing at 100% more of the rate, right? Like double the opportunity to be able to do that. That's so special. Yeah. And so we think about where we spend our money. You're right. We think about our dollars, where we're going to restaurants, where we're going to cafes, where we're going to buy secondhand, but we don't think about where our money lives. And that's the much more important part right now, is like how much of our capital is living and being used to either finance things that are against the grain of what we care about, directly against what we care about. So I won't go any further on that, but I ask you to do your research. If you are with a financial institution, about where that money's being spent, easy to find. Reddit forum will tell you immediately, but a Google search will too. And with East Coast Credit Union as just an example. So you are the poster boy today of all the different credit unions across the countries and the world who are so easily vettable. This is where this is going. I don't have to use Reddit to find out where ECC is funded.
Right on our website, you just can download our annual report and all the details are there. So it talks about where all our money is being spent. We've got information on where we invest, how we invest, and we're constantly working to try to be better. So, as part of our commitment to being a B Corp, we're vetted every 3 years. So I think we're coming up for our new set of rules, trying to make sure that we're able to do the things that we say we do. It's a good litmus test for us. It helps us to make sure we've got the right things in place. And the other thing it does, I think, is it gives confidence back to our members and those in the general public that we are able to do those things, because it's an independent view of what you're doing. It's not just us saying it; it's somebody else's vetting.
Definitely.
And actually, the vetting process. I don't know anybody that's familiar with B Corp will be able to tell you that it's not just a rubber stamp and you give them a check. There's a lot of information you got to go through to get that done. So
I had 2 full-time employees work for 3 months on our second audit. That's why we stood down from it, not because it's a bad idea, but because us as a smaller independent. So we were one of the
more difficult.
We were one of the first 100 in Canada. Going back to like 2011 or 2012. We were the first restaurant, and then we were the first farm and brewery with Persephone, which is still a benefit corporation or B Corp. And for folks listening at home, B Corp or benefit corporation isn't just a check mark. You have to change in your actual like mandates and in all your legal documentation that you are going to be in service to people, planet, and place. And your purpose isn't just defined by one thing, right? So when we're talking about these audits, Ken and I are both laughing because we don't have to do them, or I didn't have to do them, but the people who did have to do them, the check mark. So if you Google right now, Persephone Brewing Corporation B Corp or ECCU B Corp, you're going to get a very complex score. Based on how we service our people, for everything, but what do we do with our garbage, all the way through to what's our energy look like. And it's a way of the future that we were hoping would catch on faster than it has. This is being vetted by a third-party auditor. Imagine it's like the United Nations of business, like they're checking in on you. And it's extraordinarily difficult to do. So the companies that do it, if you're looking at everything from legal to accounting, who we were with a couple of weeks ago here at the brewery market, you're going to see that people are deadly serious about how they treat people, planet, and place. Like, what does it look like to do all these things in purpose? So we appreciate that you guys are also leaning in hard there. And we love to be competitive. We love to like self-evaluate. When we said we do B Corp, for me, it wasn't about how others were looking at us. It was, where are our blind spots? What are we missing about what we're doing? And we were scoring higher on things than we thought we were.
And then other things were a little lower and maybe took some work, right? That's where we are. We thought we were doing a really good job on environment, but when we did the math, it didn't look quite as good. It was still really good in comparison to many companies, but there was maybe an area where we could improve that we didn't realize. So it helps you identify those spots where you can be a little more effective. And part of it also is about measuring, right? So it's making sure you got the right measures in place and the right reviews of things to ensure that you're doing what you say you do, and so it keeps you honest as an organization to make sure that you're able to look at those things and judge them in a way that makes sense. And then somebody else is actually looking at it and saying, okay, you said you're doing that, and actually I see where in this 4,000 page report that you are.
Literally 4,000 pages. And so let me ask, this question to you at home, which is, would a financial institution that's not a credit union invite a 4,000 page audit into how they spend their money? And I think the answer there is no. So there's all these other evaluation points about it. But I wanted to really, and the point of this, and I hope we've achieved it, is to humanize the relationship and the difference of the relationship. The comparable that I came up with analogously on my walk over here, I was like, you could walk into a major chain grocery store, or you could go to the brewery market on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. to make sure that you get those rainbow beets before anybody else gets anywhere near them, or the few figs that are coming out of the tree. That's the credit union experience. I come to you and I say, I have a problem. My problem is I want to feed 1,500 African Nova Scotians and Indigenous Nova Scotians throughout the whole summer. I have no money. I got to figure out how to do this together. And you'll be like, wait a second. We have a couple people who bank with us that care a lot about that community. I want you to meet them. Let's put together a lunch and do this thing. And I'm not saying this is an experience because I have, visibility or I have a platform or leverage. I've watched you do this as an organization. I've watched Van City do it. I've watched a bunch of the people from Toronto do it with organizations to help them solve a problem. I'm looking to lease a space downtown. I can't spend more than $30 a square foot. Oh, well, we got our ear to the ground. Here's this, and this. It's not as simple as how much money can I make from you? And really, the other relationship is that simple. It's going to be very transparent. How much can I make from you? One of the big, I have some of my credit cards with them, and you and I had this conversation, and I had them because I get points. Everybody is points hungry, right? As business people, we're points hungry. And I said to Ken in passing, I was just like, hey, so I have with this one of the big five, I have these visas that I'm collecting points on and sending my staff on vacations and stuff. And he was like, oh, ours are better than those. just really casual. And I was like, really? And I changed those over too immediately because obviously the bank didn't want me to have those anymore without a bank account. So They provide a wraparound for you. So if you're still like, oh, but I really love those Avion miles, well,
we can give you cash back. So it's way better.
Briefcases of money show up at your door is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So look, I feel like we covered a lot of the heady stuff. I feel like we got into some of the tech stuff. I tried to drag us back into the heart stuff over and over again. But if you have like a couple defining pieces for you about like a career well spent, you moved over, you stopped collecting license plates.
Yeah.
You started collecting barbecues instead.
Yeah, that's right.
Ken is a hell of a cook.
I even got a nice apron. Looks a little bit like yours, actually. So.
I hope so. That was the intention. So if you had a couple of stories that you could share, or one that, really hits you about the difference in working the way that you do and who you work for.
Yeah, I think when I first joined the credit union, I expected it to be a lot like the bank. So at first it was all these things like somebody would come in, well, our lease is up. I'd be like, okay, well, who's our department for that? You. And this happened several times early in my tenure. And I realized just how different it was being at the credit union, because you were the person that was making, along with the team, all those decisions.
Right.
And the impact that has on your broader community is immense, I think. And then the other thing I think that I found over the years is we really have a unique team. Like, they're a wonderful group of people. They have great hearts, and they bring it to the office every day. We had a staff event this weekend.
Okay.
We had 200 of our team out.
Wow.
And it was just a lot of fun. And people getting together. It's almost like, when you have a big family reunion, everybody getting together. And it's just that spirit of working together to build something really special. Those are two things that you just can't get in every place you work. And when I look back at the immense impact that our team has been able to have over the years on the community, whether it's the Michelin thing, whether it's, the program we're working on, other things that we've been able to accomplish, we're doing some work with affordable housing. It's just, it's there's no place that you could have worked the 20 years or so that I put in with the credit union that you could kind of go back and tangibly say, look at all the things I did. And at the same time, our business went from under $100 million in assets under admin to like 1.6 billion, and we continue to grow. Went from 60 employees to 300. So it's like all these things that you kind of put together, and you say, that to me, that's time well spent.
It really is. Right? I want to say, as a partner of yours in the multiple levels that we're working together, from our food programming to our volunteering to us weaving together some cool community stuff, and there's a lot more coming. It's been a pleasure just to watch even the last 2 years and to see the team members. I've got one guy, Matt, who works for you all, who does my business stuff.
Yeah.
And I call Matt. I'm like, hey, I got to switch this stuff over. I got to deal with this. And he calls me back, and I look at my watch, and it's 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm in Vancouver. I'm like, it's
so
10
like 10
p.m.
Matt,
what are you doing in the office? And he's like, look, they're not making me be here. I just got some stuff.
Looked after for you. So I thought I'd let you know.
It breathes through every part of your organization that you guys care so much about what you're doing. So I can't say enough. You've said a lot, which has really helped me, because I feel like I've been parroting why people should be involved with credit unions. But, just closing this out, I think about where your money sits.
Absolutely. And if it's not sitting with a credit union, you should be talking to them.
Yeah. And genuinely, as people who sit on both sides of that, like it should be, and the impact that it has on your community is massive, as walking, talking proof of that for 15 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time today, Ken.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thanks for being here. Okay. I'm Mark Brand, and you've been listening to Better.